All right, everyone, welcome. This is going to be episode 2 of module 2. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about how we can go ahead and edit files within the terminal space. Typically, if we were in the GUI, we would use a word processor like this, like Microsoft Word. But we don't really have access to a word processor uh, in that case because a word processor is based off of a GUI where we're going to be operating without a GUI in this case. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use this terminal. And this terminal is going to help us go ahead and edit files that we need. Okay, so let me go ahead and real quickly, I'm going to just, there we go. Okay, so I believe everybody can see what I'm looking at here. So in the terminal, there is several different ways we can edit files. Ironically, one of the more common ways is we're going to go ahead and talk about a system that we can use to edit files called VI, which stands for Visual Interpreter or Visual Editor. And then there's also a more advanced component of it, which is called VIM, which is the improved part of that actual component. We're going to be only using VIM. VI is actually the predecessor. VIM is the successor to that one. Both of them work, but overall, I think we're going to be using VIM for this, and you'll be using VIM for the project later on. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to talk about another one. I'm going to have this as an optional video. This will be having to do with how to do Nano. Nano, in my opinion, is a little bit easier, but I think for me and everything else, to make sure that you're getting the actual context you need, if you're able to go ahead and use VIM, you can go ahead and be able to get almost everything done because almost every Linux operating system comes with VIM. All right, so let's go get started. So VIM is an open source editor that we use for asking, okay? And the best way to go ahead and do that is I'm going to type in, I'm in my terminal right here, and I'm going to type in VIM, and then I'm going to type in, just to go ahead and say, we're going to call this test, okay? Now notice what happens when I type in VIM. If I type in VIM and then I type in the name of a file, if the file doesn't exist, it creates a new file. And you can note that here on the bottom, it says test is new file, all right? So we're good there. The VI stands for, like I said before, the VIM stands for an improved version of this. And what this does, and this focuses on the essentials by being this actual, like not having all these extra features, VIM can focus on one specific thing, which is going to be text editing. So we don't have to worry about bogged down, which means also it's going to be very quick and very fast. We just got to go ahead and kind of learn the shortcuts. And what this does also, it makes the editor very small. So VIM is actually very small compared to Microsoft Word, which is a huge program. So we can go ahead and make this compact, fast, powerful, and flexible at the same time. And it's also less prone to errors because we don't have to worry about all these gizmos and gadgets, all these macros, and all these extra stuff added to it. So the other thing I want to go ahead, you're going to hear this term sometimes. It's not used a lot, but just kind of like, when you hear it, this is what they're talking about. So VIM is referred to as what's called a modal editor. And what this means is that we can distinguish between like this text and command prompts. So we can actually distinguish between text that we're typing into the file and the command prompts that we're actually issuing commands in, okay? And so when we talk about this, VIM has a couple different modes. We have 5 different modes within the VIM editor. So the first one's going to be normal mode, and this is actually where we get all our input information. When you first go into VIM, if you VIM a file and you first do it, this is exactly where you get, okay? You start go ahead and being able to go ahead, this is where you're going to be in normal mode. So whenever you first go into the file, that's going to place you in normal mode. The next one's called insert mode. Insert mode has to do with all the characters that are inserted into the buffer. And what that means is that when you insert them into the buffer, that's going to go ahead and actually be placed into the text document. The next one is called visual mode. And what we use this for, we use this to do like continuous, We use this to work with like continuous parts of text. So we're actually looking for, like we're working with a block of text, right? And then we also have command mode. And this allows to enter single commands, at the bottom. And we're going to be entering the commands here. And these commands are going to be things like sorting, replacing, deleting, searching. And then we also have another one called replace mode. Replace mode is exactly like it sounds. It actually starts entering text and overwrites what we have, okay? So we have a couple of different ways we can actually do that. And if you go to your actual, to the module from this module, there actually is a cheat sheet that gives you all the different commands on how to use them. I'm going to go over a couple of them today. And actually, I'm going to put out 2 videos. This is going to be the intro, and then I'm going to put up a subsequent video on being a little bit more advanced into how to use VIM. So like I said, we just created a file called test, okay? So now I can move around. I don't have access. I want you to go ahead and just be familiar. You don't have access to the mouse in this actual editor. I can move around, but the only thing is though is that I can only move around based off of the number of spaces. Right now, there's no spaces. So I'm going to hit the I key, and notice what happens here at the bottom when I hit the I key. Notice it tends to be into insert mode. So this means that I can start typing. I can start typing, entering information, doing what I need to do, okay? Which is great. That's all I need to do. But maybe like I don't want to do that anymore. So I want to get out of insert mode. I want to go back to normal mode, okay? Normal mode. Then I can go ahead and hit the escape key. And notice that at the bottom, it got rid of it, okay? Now, if I hit the R, let me make sure real quickly. I just want to make sure. All right, so what I went ahead and did is I pulled up the sheet. So this is actually the VI cheat sheet. It's not all the commands you can do, but this is a good bulk of the commands that you should know and you'll be using in this course, as well as also if you're going ahead and working with Linux. So we already talked about the insert command, right? So the next one I talked about is something called I mentioned is called the visual command. This is actually allow us to work with a block of text. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and continue adding more text, just so I can go ahead and just show you. And then I'm going to hit the escape key, and I'm going to exit out of the insert mode. So now I'm out of insert mode right here. Now, if you're wondering what this is right here, this right here on the bottom right, this actually tells you your location. So we are on row 8, okay, row 8, column 12. Now, what does that mean when I say column 12? So if I was to go ahead and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that is where my cursor sits, is at 12, okay? So that's how you read this right here. Now, if I want to go into replace, I'm sorry, we were talking about visual. Let me go ahead, I don't want to jump the gun. So to get to visual, I'm going to hit the V. And notice that's V as in Victor, the V key. And notice it throws me into visual mode. Now look what happens here. I can select a huge chunk of information all at once. Let's say I want to go ahead and actually, I need to go ahead and get all this information, and I'm going to delete it. So now it says 7 fewer lines. Well, I deleted that information. So I can go ahead and hit the escape key to get out of the visual mode. And then I go ahead and I'm going to enter more data. So I'm going to hit the I, and I'm going to start entering more data. Let's go ahead and go. So we did the visual mode. Remember, it has so we can work with blocks of data. That's how we can go ahead and work with blocks of data, okay? So if I go V again, I'm going to go ahead and go up V. I'm going to do this right here. And notice when I get out, if I hit the escape key and get out of visual mode, whatever I selected isn't there anymore, okay? So when I'm in visual mode, I can go ahead and select all the information I need. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit, the delete key. I'm going to go ahead and hit, the control of the YY. So I yanked the information. I haven't gone into that just yet, but I'm going to go into that next video. But I yanked that information, which means I'm going to be able to go ahead and talk about how I can go ahead and copy and paste stuff, okay? And delete. So I've yanked that information. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into a buffer. So I'm going to go ahead and actually exit out of visual mode. The last one we talked about is something called replace mode. Oh, sorry, not replace. It's command mode. So the command mode is going to be given with a forward slash. So you can, this is actually a search. So we're looking at commands. So we're looking at different commands. We can go ahead and do, these are going to be command mode. So copy, change word, change line. These are going to be commands that are given, okay? File management commands, how we can save stuff. So these are your commands, deleting commands, recovering deletion, undo commands, rearrangement commands, okay? So we can kind of get an idea of how these commands work, okay? That's command mode. The other thing is too, is that we can do searches. We can search for information. So let's say I want to search for, DS. Notice what happens when I search for DS. And then if I want to go ahead and go through each one, I hit enter. It's going to go to the first one, and I can hit the N key. And then notice it says search hit bottom, continue at the top. Okay. So it goes up and up and up and up and up until I'm finding that information. Now, if I want to go ahead and search again, I have to go ahead and exit and hit the forward slash. And let's say I want to search for wherever FI is. Hit enter. Okay, so it hit the bottom. So that's the first one right there. The next one's FI there, and the next one's FI there. Every time I go there, I hit the N key, and the N key stands for, tells it next version. And if you want to see that, you can see that right there. Let me move this over, sorry, because it was, I moved it over. So line number N, we can hit the N key, and it's next line, okay? So we can hit the line number N, and it'll kick you on to the next line. It's a really cool feature. Nothing too spectacular. I'm going to hit the escape key again. I want to get out of that. So then we're going to replace. And to get to replace, we're going to do Control R. So, I'm sorry. Shift and subscribe that. Not Control R, Shift R. I'm sorry. I always get replaced confused. Confused, and I say confused. Confused. So we're in replace mode now. So now we get to start entering text and overwrites it. So let's go ahead and actually enter. I'm going to do ITSC 1316 fall 2022. And notice what's happening. It's replacing the actual file input that was already there with whatever I'm typing. So I can hit enter. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete that section right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit the escape key and get out of replace mode. Again, to get into replace mode, it's Shift R. That's going to give you the capital R. Okay, so capital R. So now let's see what happens if I try to go ahead and, okay, cool. I've entered all this information right here. Let's go ahead and let's do a little bit more information. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. I'm going to go into V. I'm going to select all this information right here. I'm going to delete it. Okay. And then I'm going to insert some new information. So this is ITC 1316 fall 2022. Let's go ahead and do Linux textbook is Linux for cyber security professionals. Okay. Professor is James Devno. And then this is going to be let's see, class time. Let's go and say this is an online class. Let's say it's online, okay? So now let's say I want, this is it. Remember, this is my test file. That's what it's called, test. So I've entered all this information. I've messed with this file. Now the quick question is, how do I save it? So what we're going to do with this is there's 4 different ways you're going to have to do. So you're going to go ahead to save anything, you have to type in the colon, and notice that the colon right there in normal mode, that's giving it a command. Hey, do this, okay? So it's very easy. We can go ahead, I'm going to bring it up right here actually. And here it is right here, okay? So we can do it a couple of ways. So we're going to use a W to write, okay? And a Q for quitting. And we're going to combine those two. So let's see what happens. Let's say, you know what? I don't need this file. I'm just going to quit. Cool. Well, let's look at this right here. I want you to see how this reflects a GUID word processor. So I'm gonna do all this editing, right? I'm gonna go ahead and I want to go ahead and close this out. Oh, Word is like, hey, just by the by, you made some changes to this document and you're trying to quit. Do you want to change or save those changes? Like, do you want to make sure you document this? And you can be like, yeah, sure, I want to save it. Well, surprisingly enough, the actual VIM has a very similar one. So let's go ahead and say, I'm going to try and quit, right? Notice it says right here, oh, by the by, you've written something to this file. And last time you made changes, you didn't save anything. So if you really want to exit, you have to override it with the exclamation point. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and type that in again. And let's go ahead and see what happens. So I'm not going to exit right now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the W key. And I'm going to write it. Okay, it's just lowercase w. Okay, cool. Test has been written. So now I'm going to go ahead and actually make a couple more changes. I'm going to change the class time. You know what? Class time isn't online. This is going to be in person. And this is going to be in room 203A, which if I remember correctly, I think it's the room that we're going to be in. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to escape and I'm going to hit the colon. I'm going to try to quit. Again, gives you that thing. Hey, you made changes to this. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go ahead and keep those changes. I'm going to hit the Q and I'm going to put the exclamation point there. Okay, so I'm going to do an ls. Notice that my file test is here. Okay, so we can actually go ahead and concatenate the file. We can see what the test looks like. Remember, we didn't save the changes, so it still says online. So let's go back into the file with vim test. Okay, and now let's go ahead and make the changes. Again, I'm going to do Shift R in person. And I do want you to go ahead and kind of also notice, I typed it in person, right? Watch what happens when I hit the backspace. It buffers what you had before into a buffer. So just in case you didn't really want to delete it, you don't have to remember what you typed. If you just go back and undelete, it'll actually go ahead and replace what you typed in before. So it's a really cool, neat trick that a lot of people don't realize. So in person, I'm going to say classroom 203. Okay. So now I'm going to save these. I'm going to quit. So I'm going to write the changes to the file, and then I'm going to exit the file. So again, we got the file there. And remember, I told you all before, we should be using ls-l. And I want you to go ahead and also know that if you look right here, there's been we edited this file July 15th at 23:42. Okay. Unfortunately, I think it's still on the old time. It's not. So please excuse me. Okay, so now let's go ahead and cat test. And notice it saved the changes. Okay. Now sometimes it may say, hey, this file, you can't write these changes. If you want to write to them, you have to override the lock on the protection on this file. So you may have to give the exclamation mark to the write capability too. But that's just so you know how to go ahead and do that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and suggest, I'll clear this out real quick. There is actually a really cool tutoring feature for VIM within the actual operating system. You're going to get to it, you're going to type in VIM tutor. And this right here is exactly everything that you need to go ahead and get comfortable with VIM. Now, I didn't talk about this because you can use the arrow keys to maneuver, but technically, to move the cursor, you're going to use the H key to go left, and this is going to be very weird, the K key to go right, the J key to go down, and then the L key to go, the K key to go up, J key to go down, and then the L key to go to the right. So you have that right there, okay? So they want you to move the cursor around the screen until you're comfortable. So if we're gonna go to the right, we're gonna use L. So I'm gonna type in L. Let's see, L. So hold down the J key until it repeats. So remember, J goes down. If I want to go up, I use the K key. If I want to go to the left, we go L. If I want to go to the right, we go H. And this is going to be a little bit weird. And like I say, you don't have to use it, but if you know how to do this, like going J to go down, going K to go up, let's go J, let's go L to the right, H to the left, you can kind of get used to that, okay? So that's that right there, using down key to move to lesson 2. So we're going to use the J key to move down lesson 2, all right? Again, this is going to be going into how to exit VIM. This teaches you a little bit. Colon, Q, exclamation point. This exit the editor, discarding any changes you made, okay? So it actually, this is a really good tutoring tool. I love this actual one, and you'll be required to go through a certain amount of these to kind of help you get familiar with this before you can do the next, the project, okay? So I will have a video, it's gonna have some of the commands and everything, but I do suggest you go through this too and kind of get familiar with it and kind of get familiar with the commands, because the commands are a little bit wonky. And this sometimes can give you a little bit better understanding because it's written out, and it was written out to teach people. I'm gonna do the best I can to teach you, but sometimes people need a little bit extra than just like, you know, me talking about it and doing it on the screen. They don't mind seeing it visually, but you can't see my keyboard while I'm typing this. So maybe, so that's it for the introduction to the editor, to VIM. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how to go ahead and use VIM in a more advanced fashion. I'll talk about how to do different commands. And then I'll go ahead and talk about how you're going to be using VIM for the main project for this section. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and hit me up through Messenger. If not, and everything else. Also, if you do have any questions about this assignment, please use the discussion board. I'm sure there's other people that need help. And you can go ahead and work together as a group and everything to try to get this done. You know, this is one of the great things about the Linux community. It's very helpful. Guarantee it's going to be a very helpful community, unlike the Windows community. Just saying. So with that said, see you on the next video.